in one pair of hands too. Thank you for coming today to honor our brother with us. You all may know him in different ways, but to us three sisters, he was just our brother. I'd like to say a few things on his behalf and share with you some thoughts and memories about Daryl when he was young. Maybe some of Daryl's funny little ways will warm you when you're cold and make you laugh when you're sad. Our lives reveal around all kinds of journeys that we must travel, and Daryl started out in Potosi in a humbling way. Our family didn't have many luxuries in life, but we had an abundance of love. Our parents moved often, but we spent a lot of time at our grandparents' house, Charles and Rilla Gibson. They attended the Hopewell Assembly of God Church, which was within walking distance of their home. If we were there on Sunday morning, you can bet we attended Sunday school at the church. Grandma Gibson was one of the teachers there, and we all wanted to be in her class someday because she taught the older kids. But in the meantime, we had to sit in the little classes on those old, hard wooden benches and pay attention, which was very hard for Daryl. Our grandparents gave each of us a penny for the penny march offering with a stern warning, now don't lose it. For those of you who don't know the meaning of the penny march, well, it was a way for the children to return to their parents' side while marching around the altar that held a small copper offering plate. As the children came from their class, they would march around the altar and drop their penny into the plate. And yes, Daryl literally marched those skinny little legs that matched that silly little smile. When it was his turn, he grinned and he reached into his pocket for his penny. It was gone. No penny. His face got red, his eyes got really big, and he froze in place. He checked his other pockets. He looked on the floor, no penny. He would not move, he would not budge, and he was holding up the line. His older sister Brenda saw what he was going through and walked around the other kids and gave him her penny. Brenda loved her brother, and he loved her. Dolores also loved her brother Daryl and of course her brother Farrell, who has also passed. Years ago, she asked me to write a poem for her about her brothers and sisters, and I believe if she were here with us today, she might want me to include some of it in this way. And part of it said, "My brothers hunted mushrooms under frog umbrellas. Their pockets were full of pebbles, bird feathers, and occasional dried up worm. Mosquito bites and poison ivy were always in sight, but you hardly saw them when they chased the fireflies at night. Each different they were in their own way, but still alike you see, because these brothers belong to me." Dee loved her little brother, and he loved her. And Daryl loved his younger sister Rita, who has also already passed. Many times I remember him saying how happy he was on the days he went to visit her. After all, she lived right next door to a golf course. And he said, a day of golf, a visit with my little sister, and a big serving of her homemade peach cobbler. Now that was his kind of golf day. When Daryl was a boy on the threshold of becoming a man, he had lots of friends, and he kept them all his life. It wasn't unusual for Daryl's buddies to become family to us and to make memories also. One of those times was when Daryl had got me a birthstone ring for my birthday, and he bought it at the old Rexall drugstore in Valley Park. It was one of those days when the buddies and some of the girls got together, and we went to Indian Creek in St. Clair. Daryl and his buddies, Warren McGraw, Arnold King, and Bobby Williams and his cousin buddy, Wayne Cox. And us girls, we were all splashing around in the water when suddenly I realized my brand new birthstone ring that my brother had just bought me was gone from my finger. I yelled to Daryl, who was standing on the bank, that my ring had come off. He immediately took charge and told everybody not to move. He looked around on the bank of the creek and he picked up a tiny rock and he brought it out to Bobby Williams and told him to drop that tiny rock by me. And Daryl went under the water to watch that tiny rock float down a little ways until it dropped to the bottom of the creek. And when it touched the bottom, right next to it was my ring. My brother had just become my hero. And I still have that ring today. It's old. Daryl was one of 7 siblings, but he also had many cousins that he was fond of and he enjoyed spending time with, especially Uncle Herman's Gibson girls. The Gibson girls said they always looked forward to the times we visited them in Valley Park because they knew they were going to be entertained by the funny things Daryl did. Daryl also enjoyed the time spent with his cousin Wayne. Even when they were little, Daryl and Wayne, they roughhoused and they teased each other and they blamed each other for the bad things they did. And they took joint credit for the good things. I believe some of those things may have carried over to their golfing days. They were cousins and they were buddies. Daryl had a way of surprising you with gentleness, and sometimes he was a little shy. You know, when a situation happens, sometimes it becomes a memory, like it did for his little sister Diane. You see, Diane was the one who introduced Daryl to Alberta. They were both kind of shy and nervous about dating, so Diane and her husband Mike went with them on a first double date. And of course, since a little sister could just get away with about anything, Ray gave them a hard time. But Diane said it was a sweet memory to see how our brother could turn into such a gentleman with just a smile from Alberta, and I believe it stayed that way forever. Daryl's journey in life had many chapters, and this was a tiny look into his younger years. We were a loving family. Oh, we had our issues, but we had our traditions too, because traditions are the stories that a family writes together. So, as a family, let's all be thankful that we had a life with Daryl in it, and that our love for him and his love for us are now our forever memories. God bless you all.